Hey, good morning or good afternoon, depending on what time it is. Sorry I couldn't be there today, but hopefully you already have your materials out, your basics of argument handout. You've taken out a writing utensil, and you have hopefully at your table about 5 different colors to share with your group. That could be highlighters, different color pens or pencils. We're going to color code one of our templates that I want us to go over today. But everything today is going to be all about argument. And so when you think of argument, you probably think of something like this: in your face, loud, obnoxious maybe, or maybe something like this where everyone's on the attack and it's trying to prove a point regardless of the volume of the actual speech. But if you think about argument, really it's simply this: it's just giving reasons or citing evidence in support of an idea, an action, a theory. And really the aim is persuasion of another's point of view, to see the commonality or maybe even be fully persuaded to your point of view. And so all about persuasion. We've been spending time with persuasion. We've taken a look at how others persuade and the different techniques, and so I want you not forgetting that, but trying to figure out a way we can implement that in our own argument. So we'll be arguing here in a moment, but first I guess the question is, what makes a strong argument? On your handout you have about 5 bullet points that you can add. So in your groups right now, we're going to pause the video in a second. In your groups right now, turn to each other, come up with your 3 to 5 different elements that make up a strong argument. Pause the video now. So hopefully you came up with a pretty good list of ideas there with your small groups. You can share those out as a whole class if you'd like to, but if not, hopefully came up with ideas of, okay, number one, evidence, and I think most of you probably went in that direction. There needs to be specific evidence to back up those arguments. Beyond that, though, you need to be pretty clear on what you're arguing, like we've talked about with our assertions, picking that out from other speeches. But one other thing I want us to think about is, what are your reasons? What's your explanation? What's your elaboration there behind it? You can think of things like tone of voice if you're thinking of a verbal argument, because that can make the world a difference when you're trying to persuade someone. You can think about the consistency of that evidence, but also the sources of your evidence, because if they're not coming from valid sources or trusted sources, or there's not a variety of sources, then that argument may be weakened. I trust that you have a pretty good list already with those 5 different bullet points, and if you've shared out, you've probably added some more. But here's what I'm going to have you do. Before we do anything else, go ahead and keep on the top of your page there and take a look at the top right-hand corner of your page. There's a section that says topic, and you're a line, and you're going to write one of these topics at the top. I want there to be a pretty balanced group in the classroom right now. So I'm really going to try to limit it to only like 10 people maximum per topic to argue between: curfews, homework, texting versus talking, and school hours. I know you don't know what I'm going to have you argue yet, but I want that to be the basis, the general topic, which you'll produce an argument from with all of your good points of argument, what makes a strong argument. So go ahead and write that out. Pause the video right now as you reflect on that, and make sure you have your topic selected. Alright, so note-taking time. When it comes down to argument, the easiest thing, I need you to memorize this, is there's 3 parts: A, R, E. I mean, what would you guess already would be the A? Based on what we've already talked about, what would you guess would be the R? And then what even about the E? Here's what I want you writing down on your paper so you don't forget it. When I say ARE, the 3 parts of argument, I'm referring to number 1, A, the assertion, the statement or claim made in the very beginning. That's your clear, clear point of argumentation. It's going to be opinionated, and we'll go through a clearer definition of what this looks like in a moment, but it's something that could actually be argued. Then R is that reasoning behind it, what your elaboration is, what your explanation is of your opinion, and where you're going to take this, because there can be multiple reasons you have a particular argument, but you need to specify which one that might be. And then finally, of course, as we've said over and over again, good, strong arguments need to have evidence and a lot of it, so that support anything that you're using to prove and show those reasons. That's what we need to see there. So ARE, assertion, reasoning, evidence. Assertion, reasoning, evidence. Assertion, reasoning, evidence. And you're lucky I'm not there because you know what I would make you do and chat that out. But I won't, unless you really wanted to on your own. But right now, go ahead and let's talk about assertions as we're adding to our notes there. So I've been using this phrase assertion a lot, but just to give you commonality with another word, we might also say this is the claim. When you make a claim, you're making an opinion, you're making a statement that can be subjective, but is intended to be proven. When we say that word subjective, that's the opposite of objective, meaning if you are objective in your statements that you're giving, well, there's no opinion about it. It's factual, you can't argue with it, and it's just what it is. But we actually want to be subjective in this situation because subjective means opinion. It means that you actually have something to prove. So if I am thinking about the part of a paragraph that this may be seen in, it's going to be in your thesis statement, it's going to be in your topic sentences, just like you were writing about the assertions of others. When you give your own assertions, I want them to be in those thesis statements or topic sentences. And here's some keywords I want you to write down because I think it's helpful to know, like, where do I start with this assertion? Try to use words like is or should. And you've done this in your précis, but if I'm going to make an argument, I'm trying to state as fact what my opinion is so that others have an opportunity to argue against it. So by saying words like is, this is the case, well, that could be a fact, but it could also be your opinion as you're stating it as such, or using words like should, like you should do this or you should do that. That's an opinion. That's still something that could be argued. So using those keywords is actually a clear signal that you are stating something as what you believe to be true, but could still be argued. And so here's an example. Let's go through a couple different examples that may be helpful for you there to see. So, and you don't have to write this one down, but if you want to, it might be helpful for you. Here's my assertion, my opinion, my claim. Television news is boring. There's not much to that, but I'm using that keyword of is. I'm stating this as if it is fact, but it's completely my opinion. Television news is boring. And equivalently say, you shouldn't watch television news, maybe based on that idea. But really simplistic. We'll build on that one in a second. But what I want you to do is, we'll pause the video in a second. Down below, you have several lines that you're going to start writing out your own argument. So start with that assertion with our three parts, A-R-E. Your assertion is going to be based on that topic that you wrote down earlier at the top of your page, either curfew, homework, texting versus talking, or school hours. And so take one of those four that you already wrote down and write for me an assertion using those keywords of is or should. Don't worry about the reasoning yet. Don't worry about the evidence yet. Just give me that basic assertion that you're going to start. What's your opinion on that topic? It could go in any direction you'd like to, but make sure it is actually opinionated. Ready, go. Okay, so let's start building on that. Next is reasoning. Go back to your note-taking, and let's go ahead and record some things regarding reasons. It's really the why of the argument. If you were to ask someone, okay, why do you believe what you believe? They would say, well, because, and start listing all their different reasons. And so really, we can look at this as the second part of the claim. I don't want that to get confusing. If we make a claim, it needs to have both an assertion and a reason every single time. Assertion and a reason. So when I say claim in the future, I want you to be able to give me statements that use some of these keywords like because or therefore. If I'm stating an opinion, I need to give as many because statements as possible to strengthen my argument. So now let's build on top of what we already had. If I made the assertion that television news is boring, well, where's my because statement? Why? What's the reason why? I might say television news is boring because it doesn't talk about issues that are relevant to me. Now, whether you think that's a good argument or not, it's still giving me an assertion. It's using those keywords of is or should for the assertion, but then it's also using those signaling keywords of because to give me the reason why. So television news is boring because it doesn't talk about issues that are relevant to me, doesn't appeal to me in that way. That's still only 2 steps, because then you're going to start asking, okay, well, what do you base that on? Before you even do that, I want you to give me one clear reason based on your topic. You have your assertion now also below on the bottom of your handout. Now that you've written down some notes for reasoning, go ahead and record for me what is your reason for the opinion you gave as your assertion about your topic. Go ahead and pause the video now. Okay, last step, evidence. And when we talk about evidence, I know you know what that is, but I do want to throw in other words that we are maybe use interchangeably. So when I say evidence, we might be talking about the data, the proof, the support, the example. So if I say, where's your data? Talking about that evidence. And otherwise, when we're writing, you might hear me say like concrete details, your CDs, your concrete details, your evidence, your data, all the same thing there. But what are those keywords? You know them. You've done this before in your quote integration as you're giving evidence and examples. You might say things like, for example, or this is shown by, and let's get ready to add that to our own argument, but look at that one example. So the full picture now, starting with the one example I gave you. Television news is boring. There's my assertion. Here's signaling my reason, because it doesn't talk about things or issues that are relevant to me. For example, okay, now I'm getting into the evidence. For example, I never see stories about the issues that teenagers deal with every day. Okay, that could be more specific, but it's at least using a personal experience to show, hey, here is my evidence regarding my experience, and to back up my opinion, here's what my opinion is at least based on. I bet you could find even more specific evidence than that. So here's what I'm going to ask that you do. If the sub's okay with it, I'll let you pull out your phones to back up. Try to look up some information really quickly if you want to, or it could be based on personal experience. It doesn't matter to me, but I just want you using those keywords of, for example, or this is shown by, to develop your argument further. ARE, assertion, reasoning, evidence. Give me what you have there, and we'll pause the video right now and do one last step as we fill out the rest of our process of argumentation. So you've built your argument, and that's awesome, but you're not done. ARE is just the beginning. So you have your claim, your assertion plus your reason together, and your data. Those are your only first 2 sentences there, as you're either giving a verbal argument or a written argument. But what comes next? What comes next is your warrant. Warrant might sound like I haven't heard that before, but it really goes along with further reasoning and explanation, explaining the points that you've already given based on your position, based on your evidence, and it's going to connect your data with your claim. So it's the next natural step. It validates your claim. So now that you've presented some specific data, you're going to tie that back to your, well, in a paragraph, your topic sentence, in your verbal argument, your main opinion, assertion, and reason that you gave. And then the next step is, well, if you fully explained yourself, then you need to be able to explain why others' opinions are not valid. And so you're going to give that counter argument, that counterclaim. And that's going to clarify opposing positions by saying, hey, this is what others believe. I'll grant it to them. I'll say, hey, I understand what you're saying here, but that leads us to our last step, which is the rebuttal, where you're going to now show me why that opposing position is not actually valid. You can say, I understand what they're saying, but here's why they're still incorrect. Here's why my opinion is either more valid or more accurate. The data that I have to support that is stronger. You want to be able to give the full picture here, and a good argument is going to address the other side, is going to acknowledge it, is going to do its best to refute whatever they may say, and you're doing that through warrants, counter arguments, and your rebuttal. And we'll practice that. Right now, you're not going to go ahead and write that out fully for me because we'll look at that tomorrow, but I do want us to see how does this all look together in a paragraph form, because you will be writing an argument paragraph. Go ahead right now and flip your paper over to the back side, and here's where we're going to just end with some color coding as we take a look at what I'm expecting for your argument paragraph. Right now, as you see each area, I'd like you to, for every single box, claim, data, warrant, counterclaim, rebuttal, and concluding statement, give me a different color. So there's where I'll have you in a second pause the video and just kind of color code your page there so you can see the differentiation between each sentence, between each part. And again, this may seem a little bit different in terms of the format, but I'm going to show you in a second how it's not. So go ahead and pause the video right now, take an opportunity with the rest of your group to color code that and divide that up, and that will wrap up our period. Okay, so now that you color coded, I just want you to take a quick look, and this will be the last thing we do. You've written informative paragraphs where you'll have your topic sentence, your concrete detail, your commentary, concrete detail, commentary. And if you look back and forth between these two, it's exactly the same, with the only difference being your commentary for your argument is really your warrant, or your warrant is really the commentary for an informative paragraph. The only difference here is instead of having another concrete detail and commentary to back that up like you would usually do in a two-chunk paragraph, I'm just going to have your concrete detail actually be for the other side, and then you pick it apart, meaning your second set of concrete detail and commentary is instead going to be a counter-argument and a rebuttal. You've written this before. Just because I'm using different words does not mean you haven't done this before. So don't get confused there. We'll talk about that counter-argument and rebuttal tomorrow, but just make sure you have everything color-coded and you're good to go. Once you have all that taken care of and your argument is fully written out, you can go ahead and start packing up.